In this video, we'll continue to walk through the process of configuring a digital lighting management relay panel and accessories. Just like you know about other DLM components, there are different settings you can have for the normal hours and the after hours time period. For normal hours and after hours, you can change how occupancy sensors work, the time delays, blink warnings, and other settings. As discussed in the first video, setting these behaviors for relays in the panel is done by creating groups of relays and specifying the parameters all at once using the LMCP. So in order to set up the groups, we're going to do something a little different. We're actually going to use the LMCP to set up the group and then assign the parameters that we want for normal hours and after hours. We're going to turn on the LMCP, go down to the More option, choose Panel Setup, point it at the IR port in the panel, and then we see now we've got our panel setup menu. If you recall, in order to get to the schedules, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom and choose Panel Programming. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the groups, and we're going to set up group number 2. I'm going to point to the panel. I'm going to say that we want to go to group number 2. It's going to ask us to point to the panel to get group number 2's information out of the panel. And we're going to leave the type set as custom. When you do that, you can then choose what you want to have happen. But before that, let's set the loads to that. So if I choose loads, it's going to show me and say load number 1 is not included in this group right now. That's fine. Load 2, not included. That's fine. However, for load number 3, we're going to say yes. And for load 4, we're going to say yes again. So I've now said load relays 3 and 4 are both going to be part of group number 2. When I'm done, I'm going to say done. And I'm going to send it in right now just to make sure I get that information into the panel. The second part of setting up, though, the group is to say what we want to have happen during normal hours and after hours. We're going to go down. By leaving this in custom, we have an option here where I can actually say what I want it to do for everything that shows up. So for blink warning, we're going to say yes, and we're going to put 5 minutes. This means that 5 minutes after an off cycle, the lights will blink, come back on, and 5 minutes later will go off. The delay normal hours, for most buildings, if you think about it, during normal hours, you don't want lights to turn off automatically during normal hours. So we're going to leave that one set as no. The next one for after hours, though, we want to have a nice long time delay of, let's call it 120 minutes. So this will give anybody who overrides the lights a 2-hour time delay whenever they override the lights. Let's go up to 120. I could have obviously gone around the bend. And then the next 2 things are going to ask is, well, what do we want to have happen when the panel goes from normal hours to after hours? Now think about that. That's typically going to happen in the evening time. What do we want to have happen? We want the lights to turn off. We'll leave it as that. For after hours to normal, so this is typically in the morning, what do we want to have happen? What we're going to do is we're going to say do nothing. So the lights won't turn on automatically in the morning, but they will turn off automatically at night. This is typically, we call this a manual on setting. There's one other screen of information that I get to by next. And this is saying what we want to have happen during the sensor behavior. After hours, I'm going to want the sensor to go automatic on and automatic off. But during the normal hours, I don't want the sensors to do anything. So now I can have my lights go on in the morning by a schedule, and after hours, I can hand control completely over to the occupancy sensors. Since I'm done with this little menu, I'm going to say done, done. I'm going to get all the way back to the top. I'm going to make sure I send this information into the panel. And then since I'm done here, I can now go back to the main panel schedule. So if you recall, the first group that we set up, group number 1, we just used a simple on and off command. You should use that whenever you have something that doesn't have occupancy sensors connected or typically have an after hours time delay. But for anything that does have an after hours time delay, which is required by most of the energy codes, we're definitely going to want to set up schedules that use the normal hours and after hours parameters that we just programmed up. So let's do that for group number 2 that we just programmed. I'm going to say schedule. It's going to ask me to point at the panel. If you recall, we've got a schedule 1. We even have a schedule 2 that's set up. So the next empty slot is going to be schedule 3. And so for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to say, instead of going off, we're going to say that we want to go normal hours at 8 in the morning. So I'll go 8. And if you recall, this is going to be group number 2. I'm going to set the same active days that I had before, which are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Is going to be a no. Sunday, holiday, we're done. So now that I've got my schedule number 3 set up rather, I'm going to send that into the panel. And I'm going to say the same thing for schedule event number 4. So this is going to be, let's turn these lights to after hours at 5 o'clock. So I got to make sure I put after hours in. And 5 o'clock in military time is 1700 hours. That's 0 minutes. And again, we want to control group number 2 this way. Let's check the active days. We want the same active days that we had before: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Sunday, and holiday we're going to leave as no. And now let's send this into the panel. We're all done, so I'm going to say done now for these 2 schedules. So what we've done inside this panel is we've used the normal hours and after hours commands to set up a schedule for group number 2. The settings for the group actually will dictate what happens when the loads go to normal hours and when the loads go to after hours. So to review, we've now got 2 different groups that are set up. Group number 1 is following a simple on and off schedule. Group number 2 is actually using the more advanced normal hours and after hours, where we can describe what the parameters are for each part of the day and use that to schedule. The last schedule we're going to do is we're going to use a photocell, and we're going to use the astro function that's built into the panel, so that we can have a schedule so the lights will go on every morning based on the astro setting, but they'll go off every night when it goes below 50-foot candles. So in order to do that, we're going to need another group of relays. So let's set up group number 3. Group number 3 is just going to be relays 5 and 6. After a couple seconds, the LED starts blinking. I'm going to pick relays 5 and 6, and I'm just going to tap group 3 again. I can test to make sure they work, and now we can go in and program them with the LMCP. So now that we've got group 3 set up, we're actually going to use a different option on the handheld remote. We'll go back into panel programming, and we're going to choose the dark and light options. This allows us to say, for a group of relays, what do we want to have happen when the panel considers it getting dark, and what do we have happen when the panel considers it getting light. And dark and light can be determined either by a photocell or the built-in astronomic time clock. So let's go in and do that. So it's going to ask me to point to the panel. It's going to say the first event for light dark is number 1. I'm going to say that's fine. Let's use that one. And it's then going to show me what the settings are for event number 1. Now what's important to understand is what we want to do is we want to turn the lights on in the morning. So that's considered the light event. So what we do is we say we want to turn the lights at dark. We want to do nothing. For light, we want them to go on. So now that I've got that set, it'll also ask me if I want more light or less light. So this way I can bring the lights on a little earlier or a little later. I'm going to say no. I'm just going to leave that set for a default of 0 minutes. And I'm now going to say which group I want to have it control, and that's group number 3. For active days, let's do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday again, and no for Saturday, Sunday, and holiday. So my active days are set fine. So once I've done that, let's go to done. And my event's set, so I better send it into the panel. Okay? The next event that we want to create is event number 2. It's going to pull the panel information out for event number 2. And now for this event, what we want to have happen is we want the lights to go off automatically at the dark event. And because we'll have an LMIO 301, we'll be able to even say that it's going to be 50-foot candles. So let's do that. Let's first identify what type of unit it is. It's an LMIO. We're going to say that for the dark event, we want the lights to go off. And the light event being in the morning, since we already have one, we're going to say none. What foot candle level? Here I'm going to leave it for the default of 50-foot candles. And I'm also going to say the delay is left at 0. Lastly, which group do I want? I want to make sure I'm doing group number 3. Active days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just like before. Saturday, Sunday, and holiday we'll leave as none. And when I'm all done, I say done. I want to send it back into the panel. And I've now got my 2 events all set up. So let's say done and get out of this menu. I hope you found this video useful. Please check out our other videos on DLM relay panels for complete information on configuring panels and accessories.